Hello, everyone. Welcome to Big League Dreaming, the podcast, a show about baseball, dreams, and family. I'm John Gonzalez, the dad. And if you're new to this podcast, it's a dad and his three sons talking about the game that they love so much, baseball. On today's show, we have two of the three sons joining us. Looks like son number three, Zane, is still busy in his baseball season. If you missed the last podcast, we talked to Zane quite a bit about how his baseball season is going. He is the associate head coach at Indiana University in South Bend. He handles the pitchers as well as recruiting efforts over there. So this is a very busy time in the college baseball season. So we'll forgive him for having a late night practice when we're trying to record a podcast. Let's introduce the other two. Son number one is Zach Gonzalez. He's based in Charlotte, North Carolina. He is the resident Mariners fans. Zach, say hello to everyone.
Hello, hello. Excited to be here. Chat some baseball. Baseball is back, so we're all very happy.
Yeah, I've been watching some of the spring training games already. So I know that this thing about March and basketball is taking place. It's right on the cusp of that, but we're busy watching spring training games. That's what we do here at Big League Dreaming, the podcast. Son number two is Ty Gonzalez. He's based in Grand Rapids, like I am. He is the Mets fan. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for today's guest, fellow Mets fan. So that's always good.
And you didn't line up this guest, which is
I
pretty
didn't.
funny. So you just found out that he's a Mets fan when we're getting ready to prep and go on the
I
air.
did. I
So
did.
I'll let Zach introduce him for a second. But before we do that, I just want to say again, thank you so much for tuning in. We drop new episodes every Saturday, and we're on a roll, folks. If you go back to some of the recent episodes, we've had some great guests, some so much fun opening up those packs of baseball cards. Zach, we did that on the last a couple of Saturdays ago live. We did a live show, live stream where I opened up a whole box of Tops Series 1. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun because you had a hot box and we were just pulling numbered cards left and right out of that thing.
And then, Ty, you and I were going to fight over a box, but you like my little move at the end there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You buy an extra box on the spot. Yeah.
An extra condo. I mean, why not? Why not? We'll do it.
Why not?
We won't fight over the box of cars. So, all right. Well, hopefully you can stick around for today's show because, like Ty said, we're really looking forward to this. Zach, why don't you introduce our next guest?
Yeah, very excited to bring out one of my buddies. We go back to coaching in Myrtle Beach in the Beach Collegiate Baseball League down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He's coached at multiple levels, including the Division I level at West Virginia University. So chatting with my buddy Jared Fabian. Jared, I appreciate you hopping on and chatting baseball with us for a little while, man.
Yeah, definitely. Great time to jump on. Like John said, baseball's back, and I couldn't be more thrilled to talk to you, Zach, and your family as well. I've had a lot of experience in the game of baseball, and I look forward to talking about some memories and sharing stories with you guys.
Well, Zach, before we get into the questions, why don't you got to tell us how you guys met? How do you know each other?
Yeah, so Myrtle Beach, when I jumped on, so after I finished coaching at Calvin College, now Calvin University in Grand Rapids, I took a summer coaching job in the BCBL in Myrtle Beach, and Jared was one of the head coaches of a different team. And so the commissioner of the league also ran a travel baseball organization in Myrtle Beach, and he was looking for coaches. So I coached one of the teams, and Jared also coached one of the teams, and they put us on the same team, and so Jared was coaching third base, I was coaching first base. So yeah, it was a fun summer coaching with him that summer, and just stay connected and love chatting baseball with him anytime I can.
Yeah, that was a fun summer. And didn't you meet your wife that summer?
Yeah, it was the summer before.
Was it?
Yeah, when I met her, but yeah, that was definitely a lot of good memories in Myrtle Beach, among everything, really.
Yeah, that was my first head coaching opportunity, and it was fun trying to recruit 25-man rosters in a pay to play atmosphere. Had a great time, and followed that up with a couple summers in Virginia Beach as well. So yeah, I wish that hadn't ended. Let's put it that way.
What did you learn about Zach? What are one of the things you're like, oh, this guy might be a pretty passionate baseball fan? Do you remember anything at all?
I do. I mean, obviously he was a tall, lengthy guy. Like, could tell right away he was a pitcher. Also, I learned about his Mariners fandom. He doesn't shy away from that. But just overall, really, really good guy, and glad we've stayed in touch over the years.
And Zach, anything about Jared you remember, like first early memories of him? Like, why did you send that runner? Obviously it was going to be out.
Oh man. So, I love how Jared will just speak his mind. Like he'll just get right up to you and be like, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Like you're either part of this or you're not. Like, what are we doing?" And he just had that kind of like Ty, you'd appreciate it, just like that 100% go mentality all the time. I remember summer ball we'd show up to Coastal Carolina and I'd be like, Jared, I'm feeling kind of like a 40 grade right now. Where are you at? He's like, 40 grade? I'm at a full 80 grade right now. Let's do this. Let's play our game right now. And I'm just like, all right, man, let's do it.
Yeah, the sun helped a lot with my energy. I definitely love being outside, and the kids. It was a great group of kids, right? Like they weren't. There was no problem kids, and all of them really loved baseball. So, that, and it was a showcase team, I believe. So, we were out there to have a good time and play some competitive baseball.
Let's get into your story a little bit here, Jared. I know that you coach at different levels, and you're not coaching at the moment, but you've had different experiences. Tell us, where you're from originally, because I heard you're from the East Coast, which would explain why you're a Mets fan. Give us some of your background, your early playing days. Did you aspire to be in the major leagues? And, where did you, how did you end up where you ended up?
Yeah, so I'm from Buffalo, New York. East Coast is right. My first experience with baseball was actually my family had ran a local little league here in Buffalo. So I spent every waking hour at the baseball diamond. We were just constantly at the baseball diamond, working the snack stand, hitting the cages, just running around. So that was my first experience with baseball, and really where I fell in love with it. Going through high school and then into college at West Virginia University, I played club baseball there. 4-year member of the club team. I know, Zach, I believe you were a club baseball guy yourself, right?
Yeah, I coached the club team at Coastal, but I played JUCO ball and then Division II.
Yes, and I was referring to your coaching days at Coastal Club. So had a good time at West Virginia playing baseball there, and was going to school for sport management. Thinking to myself, I wanted to get into the business of baseball specifically. And what happened from there is I started coaching the club baseball team. That was my first coaching experience, and just really loved, having an impact on the student athletes, both on and off the field. And that was something I was really passionate about. So, after college, I began to pursue that career, and I started at a local high school here, working part-time, coaching baseball at the varsity level. And then, my first collegiate coaching experience after that was with Zach down in Myrtle Beach. So had 4 summers of head coaching experience with collegiate summer baseball. And the goal was to be a head coach at some point at the collegiate level. And unfortunately, I never got there in my first stint, but, maybe there will come a time where I go down that road again. Had stops along the way at Division III school, Hilbert College here. And then I went to Ohio University, Division I in Athens, Ohio. The following season, I went to New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark, New Jersey. We played in the Atlantic Sun. That was our first year in the Atlantic Sun. And then the 2 seasons following that, I went back to my alma mater and was working with the West Virginia University baseball team as their director of player development. A lot of good stops, some good and bad memories, and definitely just a lifelong baseball fanatic, just like yourselves, really.
Yeah, we definitely said. Hey, Ty, I know you have a lot of questions, but before you get to some of the stuff that's on your mind, I do want to talk about, people might be tuning into this podcast going, wait, what's a club team? Some people might not really know. There's some schools have club teams, some don't. Can you give us a little rundown of what club sports looks like? I would imagine it's more prevalent in the southern teams, but I could be wrong.
So club sports, it's more of a new trend, or at least like it was trendy when we were back in college. And club just means it's a student-ran organization. So it's sponsored still by the school or university, but the students run it. So there's a student president, and essentially the team affiliates themselves with some sort of collegiate club league. And in baseball, it was the NCBA, National Collegiate Baseball Association. And we just competed against other student-ran baseball clubs, essentially. Very, very competitive. We had some guys who I felt could have played at a high level. And we took a bunch of trips, and it was regular baseball. We're playing 9 innings, and it was a good time.
Zach, you probably remember some of those games pretty well. And I remember from talking to you, the players, they're pretty much dedicated, right? They got to pay to be on the team, and you have to get uniforms and everything. It's not like it's just a club in the sense like you pay your dues, you're in, and you kind of just show up when you want to.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind of dedication than being with like an NCAA school, NAI school, and JCAA school, because those guys don't have to be there. Like they want to be there. You're only practicing like twice a week. Your series are on weekends. You'll do like a mini fall series, fall schedule. Central Michigan has a team, Dad, and Ferris State has a team too. So it's all over the country. They have their own rankings. NCBA does their rankings. There's Division I and Division II. There might be a Division III too for NCBA, but it's a lot of fun. You have your own regionals, road to the World Series. The second year that I was coaching there, I coached 3 years for Coastal. We went to regionals in LaGrange, Georgia. I remember we played against Florida State, and we were like down by 1, and they were a top ranked team, and they had this stud on their team hit our third baseman, and we ended up losing, and they advanced to go on. But that next summer, he walked on to Florida State's actual D1 varsity team, and Florida State went all the way to the College World Series in Omaha. And I was texting my players like, "Hey, remember when you hit that kid in LaGrange, Georgia last season?" So yeah, some pretty good competitive baseball for sure.
Yeah, I had been a conference coordinator my last season with the club baseball team, and I had a chance to volunteer at the World Series. It was a great event. 8 teams from across the country competing, for a championship. So everybody was passionate, like Zach said. You wanted to be there, and it was a bunch of college kids. Taking, at the end of the day, it was college kids taking road trips together. So everybody was having a good time.
Ty, this is not. You were like, I should have played 2. I had 2 years of eligibility. I could have done that, right, Ty?
Yeah, right. What was I thinking? I should have played some club baseball. I didn't know how in depth they went with World Series and everything. World Series. That's pretty cool.
We got you, Ty. Hey, so I know you had some questions for Jared.
Yeah, man. I love your story. Love that you started with West Virginia and played some club ball and had a full circle moment and kind of winded up back there. Let's kind of go back a little bit though, from coaching at Ohio and then transitioning into New Jersey Institute of Technology. You said that was their first season. How was that transition for you? Did you like being part of a team that was just starting out? Was it tough? Like, how was that transition going from Ohio to New Jersey?
Yeah, so NJIT, that was the first year in the Atlantic Sun. Previously, they didn't have a conference. They were an independent team. So when I got there, that was our first year as a Division I ball club, and we were playing in the Atlantic Sun. The transition from one place to the other at that point in my life was natural. As you guys heard my story, there was a lot of stops along the way, and I wasn't at one place consistently for more than a couple seasons. So, I was really used to bouncing back and forth, and I had a unique situation in the sense that, as part of the NCAA at the Division I level in baseball, they have restrictions on the number of paid coaches you can have on staff. So, with that being said, I was a full-time member of the staff, but I was considered a volunteer at both Ohio and NJIT. So I think from that perspective, I was really ambitious. I was really hungry because I was looking to continue moving up the ladder, and they were both just really, really different situations. At Ohio, we had come off a MAC championship in the 2014-15 season. I get there, I arrive in the fall of 2015. Rob Smith is the head coach. His first message to the team was, "Hey guys, we're not going to be complacent this year. That's not going to happen." And right then and there, he set the tone. And what I like most about that was really, it was strong leadership, right from the top. Very detail oriented coach, really, really good speaker. I felt like that was a really good learning experience for me. I was a video coordinator at the time, so working with the BAT system, which was new to me, and it was a challenge as well, and getting to know 25 players, 25 to 35 new guys every season, plus a coaching staff. It takes some time to kind of mesh and gel. So for me, I was able to kind of take a step back, being in the role I was, and just kind of watch and learn and just be a sponge. So that was my experience at Ohio. Definitely sat in the background more so. And then when I got to NJIT, I was an assistant coach. I was working with outfielders. I was working with hitters. So I had a lot more responsibility. When it came down to practice planning and game management, I had more of a say. So again, coming from more of a learning environment to more of a hands-on experience at NJIT, it was a good transition. And again, it was fairly smooth just because I'd been jumping back and forth so often. I think that's outside of that, I'm sure we're going to get into it here, so I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. One thing that you brought up there, Jared, that's really interesting, and Zach, maybe you can shed a little more light on this too, is that it's the word opportunity, right? And I think, by the way, folks, you're listening to Big League Dream, the podcast, a show about baseball, dreams, and family. And this is a family podcast where we talk to different coaches, players, parents, people behind the scenes, broadcasters. And on today's show, we're spending some time with Jared Fabian here, who's done a little bit of everything. He's not coaching baseball at the moment, but the word opportunity, right, is that, I know, Zach, for you, you coached, you went down to Myrtle Beach to work for the Pelicans, right? You weren't on the field as a player or as a coach. You come back to Michigan to be the pitching coach at Calvin for a little bit, because you wanted to maybe go into coaching. You're trying to figure out, but you're looking at every opportunity that's in front of you and trying to figure out where life's going to take you. And that's where a lot of people are at the moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that I love about Jared, is how hungry he is as a person. Because I remember talking to Jared and he told me, Zach, I've sent an email to every single Division I school in the country asking them, can I come coach for you, pretty much. And I was just like, dang, this kid is crazy. But that's what it takes to be able to stay in that industry, to move up, to create that resume and make relationships and network, go to the ABCA conference, meet people, talk. And that's something that I'm sure, Jared, you're still like that today, just because that's the person you are. But I always appreciated that about you, my man.
Yeah, it's great to hear you say that. Certainly haven't lost that edge. Like to call it an edge. I do remember, some late night post game Pelican conversations with you, and I actually vividly remember my first conversation with Rob Smith. He responded to my email. That's exactly how it happened. I emailed Rob and he responded and said, we got this new position we're opening up. It's brand new. We've never filled it before. And would you be interested in coming to be our video coordinator? And it didn't matter what the title was or what my responsibilities were, just getting an opportunity, like you said, John, was all I was looking for. And he gave me that. They didn't give me room or board or pay, but he gave me an opportunity to join the Division I staff, and I was forever grateful for that. That season, actually, volunteers got to do whatever they can to basically scrape and claw and make some money. So, what I was doing at the time was we were getting a small camp stipend. I was working after practices. I'd go in the cages and I'd be doing private lessons with, some amateur athletes. And then I was driving 55 minutes each way to Marietta, Ohio, because that's where I was staying. I was staying with a college roommate of mine, and that's what I had to do to survive. So it was a unique experience. It really was. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't love baseball, and I wanted to get to the next step, and that's what it took. I remember Rob telling me, like, you got to make strategic moves, man. This is a tough industry. And I felt like that was a good move for me. And he was really a great mentor.
That passion, right? The grind, the passion to want to succeed. I think a lot of young athletes have that, right? That's how you get better. When you're young and you're playing, you're scrapping, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, you're going against bigger kids. I mean, that's when it starts at those ages, don't you think, Ty?
Yeah, I feel like it starts at a young age, and you kind of need that edge like Jared has to get to where you want to be. And if you don't, there's someone out there like Jared who has that ambition, who's going to take it from you. So yeah, if you don't have that, what do you have? One thing I want to ask you, Jared, I'm really interested to hear about the video coordinating you did there. What did you take away most from that, and what was like your main role, like in the everyday job doing that?
Yeah, so my playing days, there wasn't too much technology involved in the game of baseball, but once I got in the coaching game, that totally changed. I mean, it was pretty much the transition from no technology to now all we have bats and TrackMan and RapSodo and all these resources that are here to help the players. As the video coordinator, that's one thing I learned was there are other resources outside of hitting batting practice and throwing bullpens that can make a student athlete that much better. And that was my lane, right? Like that was my responsibility. So that included editing, completely taking the game in, editing clips manually, sharing them to the different players and coaches. We even did practices. We recorded practices and we were clipping up practices. So, that was my main responsibility. I was able to travel with the team, and I was very grateful for that opportunity because that had been my first year at the D1 level, and having a volunteer position, it was nice to really feel like I was part of the team. And even on recruiting visits, I had my own part. The coaches would walk the recruit up to the video room, and I would be showing the recruit some of the videos. We'd be talking through how it works and what kind of things we're looking for when it comes to a batter's swing or a pitcher's technique. And it was a really invaluable experience that helped me a lot when I was actually able to participate in more coaching duties, specifically at NJIT, right? Like I had that experience watching hitters nonstop for hours and hours and of footage, and also learning from guys like our hitting coach CJ Walmsley, who's now actually he's a Detroit Tigers minor league hitting coach, right? So he was a great baseball mind to be around. Another guy we had on that staff was our volunteer assistant coach was Brian Folds. He's now the head baseball coach at Akron in Ohio. And our other assistant coach was Craig Moore, who is actually the head coach now at Ohio University. So it was a good staff, and even the players. We had some really talented players. Obviously, they won the MAC championship that past year. So, when I came in, it wasn't like, hey, let's go change everything. It was more so like, let's try and keep doing what we were doing, and here's some extra resources for you guys to elevate your game. We had a couple really talented players on that team. Mitch Longo, who was drafted in the 14th round by the Guardians, and Rudy Rote, who won the MAC Player of the Year the following year, and then got drafted by the Phillies in round 9. So it was a very talented team, and being the video coordinator there was just a really great experience overall, even though it's not the sexiest title, right? I still felt like I was part of something great, and I was helping the players. They'd started when we got into a flow, they'd start coming to me and say, "Hey, what'd you see there?" Because I was literally sitting there, watching the videos on loop, right? So they were able to pick my brain, and it just made me feel like I was a part of it, and I was helping something. And that's one of my mottos, that I've taken from coaching is I just really like helping players, coworkers, teammates develop. It doesn't have to be necessarily on the baseball field, but rather just in any sort of team environment that I'm working in.
Zach, I have a few more coaching questions, but if you want to ask Jared anything, feel free to jump in right here.
I want to ask about West Virginia, but do you want to touch on anything, Dad, before we get into that?
No, I guess just from the coaching side, speaking of coaching, what do you think? Because let's face it, I mean, people when you grow up, you want to be a major league player, right? And then as your goals change, whatever, as you grow up and you figure out where your skill level is at, you're realistic about where your expectations are. Someone says, you know what, I might actually love working, love being a coach, but not every coach is meant to coach. Right? There've been some bad coaches out there. There are coaches that just get moved up the system and you can't figure out why. And you want players to play as a parent, you want your kids to be coached by good coaches, right? So you've been around a lot of coaches. You mentioned several a few seconds ago. What have you seen some of the top qualities of a good coach? What makes a good coach?
Yeah, I mean, certainly being organized is really like one of the top characteristics that I can think of off the top of my head, just because there are so many different things going on. I mean, talking about just two sides of the baseball, right? Pitching and offense, but you go deeper into that. You got recruiting, you got academics. You're worried this is like your livelihood. You're worried about 18 to 22-year-olds and making sure they're in the right place at the right time and they're thinking about the right things. I mean, it's really a tall task, and I don't necessarily envy those at the highest level because, imagine what I just said in magnitude, multiply that by 5 or 10 times. I mean, for some of these really large programs, like organization is super key. And, another thing that I feel like a lot of good coaches have in common and good leaders in general is just their ability to communicate. And I don't just mean telling somebody something. I mean, telling it in a way that having the other party understand what they're saying. That can really define a good leader from a bad leader. And like I said, Rob Smith had it going on as far as his, ability to speak to people. And I think Coach Mazey at West Virginia University also does a really good job of that. Two totally different people, but what they do is they listen and they are thoughtful about their responses. And, those guys have such wisdom. They've been around the game for so long, right? Like it comes natural to them, but, I really did like I always sat down in my seat and made sure I was doing nothing else when those guys were talking, because it was always something to learn, and that's what I was there for, right? Like I knew
Yeah,
I had I knew I hadn't known everything. So
yeah, I think you just had something that a lot of people don't realize. You just said, sit down, sit there, and just listen, soak it in, and learn, right? And so often, I think as young coaches, we feel like we have to be the expert and know everything, right? And when we kind of like just step back and say, you know what, I'm here to learn the game from others that have been doing this a lot longer, and I just need to sit back, relax, and just soak it all in and gain their wisdom, right? Simple as that.
yeah, and I do want to add on that, because when I met Zach in Myrtle Beach, that was kind of a transition in my coaching career, right? Like I was coaching high school ball, then again head coach in the summer collegiate leagues. I at that point in my career, to Zach's point, like I was injecting myself into the game, into the players' lives. Like that's I wanted to I wanted to make an impact. Like I felt like I needed to make an impact. And then, when I moved into the Division 1 level, there was more resources, there was more people involved. Everybody had very defined lanes and responsibilities, and I didn't have that. I didn't that need wasn't there anymore to inject myself. So it was more of a sit back and be a sponge approach. And that was a big transition point for me, because again, really, really hands on at the beginning of my coaching career, and then later on, it was the opposite of that, and it was it was a little bit more hands off.
Summer ball is a different animal. You got to do it all. You gotta hit infield, outfield before the game. You gotta write the lineup. You gotta throw BP in the cage before you even get on the field. Before you get on the field for the game,
make sure the players are there too, because like we weren't taking a team bus.
Yeah, you can't write the lineup card until like 10 minutes before game time. So to see who's there.
Yeah,
communication with the kids and the parents. All right, we're wearing yellow tomorrow, kids.
Yep, we had different colored jerseys, and God bless Joe W, who was our communications director for that league. He'd be asking for the lineup card like 30 minutes before game time. I was like, I don't have it yet, man. Like I'll have it in 25 minutes for you.
I love that. Yeah, we had two jerseys too. Summer ball, it got to the point where it was so bad, it was just like, you know what? Bring both. Everybody, you're bringing both.
These kids were they were funny, because they didn't wash their uniforms, because some of them were either they left it at the hotel, or their uniform was dirty from the game before. I mean, like, yeah, we were piecing it together a little bit in summer ball for sure. But once once the lineups were written and the national anthem was sung, everybody was locked in, and we were competing. Zach, I don't remember exactly who got the best of each other in our specific matchups, but I do know that I do have a league championship crown under my belt in that summer ball league.
I don't remember how many times we played each other. It might have only been one game or something, because there were so many teams.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We can ask Joe. He can probably pull up the archives for us. We can
exactly. I think that league is still going strong. I know we've got a couple of our other managers in that league, Phil McClure and Eric H. Yeah, I think those guys are still going at it. They're still GMs.
Zach, I know you had a couple of questions for Jared about West Virginia.
Yeah, Jared. So we recently talked to one of Ty's old teammates at the college level, he's now the head varsity coach for his alma mater high school. And just talking to him and seeing like how proud he is to be able to wear that jersey, wear that logo, kind of like the school he grew up going to, and that can now run the program. So I'm sure you kind of had like some of those same proud thoughts, moments to yourself when you were able to be brought on staff with the actual D1 varsity team at West Virginia. Can you even put into words what how meaningful that was to you? Like really that first season where you're not wearing a club baseball West Virginia logo anymore, like you're actually traveling with the D1 program. What was that like?
I mean, first and foremost, I never wanted to go anywhere else ever again. I remember, just exchanging emails with Coach Mazey at the beginning before I even stepped onto campus for an interview. I was like, I was telling, my assistant coach, I said, it's this or bust, right? It was obviously, I'd gone to school there for 5 years. Got my master's degree in sport management as well, in my fifth year there. So, my education is through and through at WVU. But funny enough, when I interviewed for, it was actually the volunteer assistant position, and that's this specific position would have been working with the catchers. I stepped onto campus, and yeah, they didn't hire me as that volunteer assistant. What they did though is they created a new position for me because Coach Mazey knew that I was going to be a star with recruits, and I was going to wear the blue and gold on my sleeve. He wouldn't have to, worry about my my affiliation with another program, because I was hardcore WVU and still am, and having a familiarity with the campus already, and with the geography, even being fairly close to Buffalo, New York. Surprisingly, it's only 4.5 hours away. So, yeah, just right from the get-go, they felt it on, coaching staff felt it, and I felt it, and it was, yeah, I mean, it was a match made in heaven for me. I couldn't wait to get onto campus. I don't even think I spent like 24 hours at home that summer, going from Virginia Beach at the time to West Virginia. I was so excited to get on campus and get started. It was everything I could have dreamed it to be. That's what we're doing here, right? We're big league dreaming, and then that was for me. That was, my playing career was done, and that was my World Series.
Ooh, we're big league dreaming. That right there, that last little 10 seconds, that's a viral clip right there.
We love it. I know you had some questions for Jared.
Yeah, I got a few more. I'm going to ask you a fun one about the Mets. Let's go back to those early 2000s, like 2006, 2007. Who were some of your favorite Mets players from around that era?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, loving Jose Reyes. He was my favorite player. Him and David Wright on the same side of the infield. Edgardo Alfonso, Mike Piazza, John Franco, right? Like all those, Armando Benitez. I mean, I was a huge baseball fan at the time, and I didn't get to watch as many Mets games as I would have liked, because at the time I don't believe they were picked up by our local network here. So I had and computers and cell phones weren't really a thing back in. I'm sure they were in 06, 07, but even past that, like I wasn't able to watch many of the games, check out the box scores. So how I became a Mets fan actually was through a pen pal.
Really?
They were, yep. And my family, my family has some ties in West Palm area, and I had been visiting my grandparents, and they introduced me to, another gentleman who was my age, and he was a Mets fan. So, we started writing back and forth about Mets stories and players, and just our fandom in general. And that's really where I got started. My dad wasn't a Mets fan or anything like that. My family had no ties to New York City or Flushing. So, it was really through that pen pal that got me excited about the New York Mets. And I soon became a Metropolitan.
That's cool. I love that story.
Yeah. How about you, Ty? How'd you become a Mets fan?
Oh, I became a Mets fan. We were talking about this when we were recording the last episode, probably around like 9 or 10. I was kind of getting into catching, and I just loved Piazza. He's my favorite player, still my favorite player. Just huge Piazza fan, so I would just naturally just start liking the Mets and just been a Mets fan ever since.
Yep, know the feeling, man. Know the feeling.
You probably figure out why Zach loves the Mariners, right?
The kid,
Oh, Ichiro.
face palm.
They're-
Yeah,
they're-
yeah. Ichiro the kid Suzuki. That sounds right.
Well, I thought you said the king, because I know that would be King Felix.
Oh yeah. King
No,
Felix.
you're talking about Griffey, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Dad took us to Tiger Stadium. Like it was '97. And I got Griffey's autograph outside Tiger Stadium when they played the Mariners. So it was over at that point. And dad did a good job of like raising us where you're not really gonna like you're kind of open to any team. You know, like he didn't force the Tigers on us, even though our parents and grandparents all love the Detroit Tigers. He raising us, he wasn't like, all right, all you guys have to be Tigers fans. Like we're doing this, doing that. It was very much like I remember having pennants all over our basement and stuff. Remember that, Ty, of like every team? Like we had posters of like all different players. So it wasn't it was easy for us to be able to gravitate toward different organizations or players. And I landed on Seattle, Ty with the Mets, and Zane with the Red Sox.
It was especially
You still have
easier
that
for us.
baseball?
Yep, sure do.
It was especially easier for us after seeing the Tigers lose 119 games in 03.
Yeah, but then it was harder when they won the World Series, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, and it's a true story, Jared, that Ty actually knew his major league teams before he knew his ABCs. True.
That is true.
Yeah. Yeah. Having the little guy at home, I'm interested to see, who he likes, if he's going to like baseball at all. When can we start playing catch in the yard?
Yeah, those are pretty emotional moments. So we want to talk about that. So some of my best times of my life. As you saw our video about traveling last summer when we did 3 games in 24 hours. I mean, that's just great memories there. Just they start when they're little and just go on for the rest of your life. They never end. They never end, which is why we're doing this podcast, right, Zach and Ty?
That's right.
Yeah, let's see if we can make our dad cry, pretty much.
Well, when I see Johnny Bench on opening day down at Reds, the Reds opening day, I'll see. I'll make sure to get a clip from him if I see him. I don't know if I will or not.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. I'm a big Reds fan, so back from the Big Red Machine. See, out my age. There you go. Zach, anything else you want to ask Jared before you get going?
I don't think so. I know Jared texted me after he watched our video of the 3 baseball games in 24 hours, and he was like, Zach, I'm a fan. Get me on the show. Let's do it. Let's chat baseball. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, baseball has been a huge part of all of our lives. I definitely have some favorite moments. Specifically at WVU, we had we hosted regionals in 2019. My last year there was our best year in school history. We had a lot of guys drafted that year as well. Let's see, we had Darius Hill went to the Cubs in the 20th round. Brandon White went to the Angels in the 17th round. Nick Schneider in the 11th round. Alec Manoah in the first round went to the Blue Jays. Paul McIntosh playing for the Marlins organization right now. Chase Illig went to the Red Sox in the 29th round. Paul McIntosh playing for the Marlins organization as an undrafted signee. Sam Kessler went to the Tigers. Cade Stroud in the 12th round went to the O's. Braden Zarniski played AAA for the Phillies. Jimmy Galuski, White Sox. Kyle Gray, Yankees in the 14th round. Michael Grove pitching still with the Dodgers organization. He was drafted in the second round. Ryan Bergert, Jackson Wolf, Madison Jeffrey. I mean, that team was loaded that year. I just listed every guy that I listed there besides 2 of those players were on that 2019 team. So, it was a stacked ball club. We lost in the Big 12 championship, and then we hosted a regional. We'd beaten Fordham the first game of the tournament, and then we lost back-to-back games against Duke, and then Texas A&M on a heartbreaking walk-off, 3-run home run walk-off. And then, that was the end of that. But, it was an incredible season. Just even watching MLB now, and so many players we played against in when I was at WVU, in 2018, 2019, a couple more notable guys who weren't on our team, but who we played against. Kyler Murray, Oklahoma, we played against him 4 times. Now he's the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, dual sport athlete. Just remember watching him from the dugout, and this dude could turn it on. He was very fast twitched. I remember watching him leg out a double. He at first it was a single, and then the outfielder fumbled the ball, and I swear he didn't miss a step, and all of a sudden he was at second base. It was a blink of an eye type thing. So I knew everybody knew he was a high draft pick at the time. Another couple guys who I'd like to shout out, Adley Rutschman. We played Oregon State in 2019, went there, I think, on the third weekend of the season. He was a, round 1, pick 1 player that year. Who else we got here? Nick Lodolo, round 1. There was a lot of round 1 guys that year. We got Nick Lodolo. Who else? Adley Rutschman, Alec Manoa, Nick Lofton got drafted in the first round a couple years later. Josh Young was drafted in the first round, out of Texas Tech. Cody Bradford, who's now playing in the bigs as well. Cody Clemens was on Texas's ball club. Roger Clemens is in Monongalia County Ballpark in Morgantown, West Virginia. He's sitting up in the suite, watching his boy. He got his little horns up, right? And there was a lot of talent running around the Big 12, and just it's definitely cool to continue following their success stories, and even that goes along with you, Zach. It's equally as fun, catching up with you and talking baseball too. So baseball has brought me a lot of good memories, like I said, and just one day when the little guy gets older, would love to take him to Williamsport, get over to the Little League World Series. When I was 12 years old, that was one of my best baseball moments, was playing in the All-Star game at the Little League World Series. It was a week-long overnight baseball camp, and you compete all week, and then they vote on All-Stars, and I got to play in the All-Star game, like, under lights, and just incredible memories. I remember more about baseball than I do in any other aspect of my life. So, that goes to show how important it is to me.
Well, I really thank you for being on the podcast. You've been a great guest, and it's good getting to get to know you. Zach, anything you want to add before Ty wraps it up?
I just want to say thanks, Jared. We love to talk to anybody in baseball, whether, they're player, coach, scout, kind of just talk to anybody that has like good experiences with the game and where they've been, because everybody has a great story to tell. That the people in baseball are just so, I don't know, we just connect with them so easily because of the tight fraternity that baseball is. So we appreciate you hopping on and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been fun.
All right, Ty, let's wrap things up for us on this podcast today.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this awesome episode. If you want to get more information on the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter, X, that's at BLDpod, at BLDPOD. We're also on TikTok at Big League Dreaming. And, of course, wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and, of course, YouTube. We'll see you next Saturday at 9 a.m. for another episode.